Mike Gaube's Headbanger Radio.
Joey, say your last name first all so we say it correctly.
You want me to say it?
Yes.
Tafolla.
Thank you. So many people mess it up.
Yeah, my own family will mess that up.
So anyway, glad to have you on the phone. It's been quite some time since I did an interview with you.
Yes, it has.
We did one a long time ago, did we not? I swear. Or am I confabulating here?
Confabulating is a rather harsh word. I'm not sure, Mike. I can't recall if we did or not, actually.
We've talked on the phone so many times. I think in my head...
Hold on. I'm looking up confabulating right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
yes. See, no, you are not confabulating.
I used that word correctly, right? That's my $10 word for today, Joey.
Yeah, I'm going to use it now. I own it. I'm borrowing.
Hey, no problem. All right, dude. So anyway, Joey Tafolla, guitar player extraordinaire. Man, okay, let's just start where when I first heard of you was, I used to read, Circus and Hit Parader. I think I favored Hit Parader more, and of course, Guitar for the Practicing Musician. They'd have all those ads in there for records, and Jag Panzer, Ample Destruction was the first record I ever bought that you were involved with, and that's when I knew of your name, and of course, Out of the Sun, correct?
Yep.
Came out. And
first record I ever did.
Which one was?
First record I ever recorded, I believe, of any substance was Ample Destruction.
Okay, yeah. And so with Out of the Sun, that was kind of the era of, because that was Shrapnel, right?
That's right. Out of the Sun came right after, it was released in 87, and it was, Ample Destruction came out in 83. Here's
some history for you. Hit Parader, the Wild, help me out here.
The Wild Bunch.
Yes, that was it. That was, I think, the actual first time I ever heard Jag Panzer, but I did end up buying the vinyl record. God, I had to do mail order for Ample Destruction. But what's the name of that song? It's something the night. What?
Eyes of the Night?
Yes, dude, that song rocked, man.
Right. So that song was actually a demo. Eyes of the Night was a demo we did. It was probably in 1985, I'm going to guess, that we did, if I'm not mistaken, for part of it was a showcase. We were doing new demos for either Epic or Atlantic or somebody, I can't recall who. And I believe Peter Morticelli, who managed Vinnie Moore at the time in a band called Icon out of your area.
Oh, yeah.
He was managing us, and that was I think that was a demo, one of the demos we did for him. But Eyes of the Night was not on Ample, but it came after.
All right, I can't remember which one I heard first, or whatever, Eyes of the Night and the Hit Parader, the Wild Bunch. That definitely sticks out in my mind. But regardless, so you had Out of the Sun that came out, and of course, Mike Varney was doing all the stuff back then, and oh my God, you had Vinnie Moore back in the day, you had Tony McAlpine, you had Marty Friedman, you had Cacophony, just all this stuff coming out.
That's right. Don't forget Racer X.
Oh my God, yeah, there's another one, right? Now, did you get to see them live back in the day? I'm sure you did, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was hanging out with Paul down there in Hollywood and would go to see all the Racer X shows. And I think at one time, a couple times, I lent them cabinets for some shows because we rehearsed in the same building. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I used to go to Paul's apartment and take lessons actually from him, jam with him.
Oh man, that must have been amazing. I mean, when he and Bruce would start trading off, playing each other's guitars and stuff. I've only seen video of it.
Yeah.
To see that live would be...
Mike, it was a great time back then. Everybody was pushing the envelope. Guitar playing actually meant something. To be technically proficient on your instrument meant a lot more, I believe, than it does to some people now. And it was so great because everybody was pushing the envelope. You would wake up the next day and hear about a new guy, and it's like, oh my God, who's the new guy? And it just forced us all to come up with just to really be on our game.
Now, is it a healthy competition, or are there some assholes out there that you're just like, screw that guy?
I always looked at it as healthy competition. I never really looked at it as anything but healthy competition.
Because I'm sure there were so many people out there that probably never made it, but maybe perhaps still caught your ear.
Oh yeah, there were always guys. I mean, it was crazy. But when it comes to the competition, I got to tell you, I used to go to Tony's house, Tony McAlpine's house, and I would while he was recording Project Driver, I would be on his couch at his apartment jamming with his girlfriend Gina, who was at the time a great guitar player, and Tony would get home and we would play, and I remember going to Paul's house and hanging out with him, and I remember being at parties, small, like 10, 15 person parties with Marty and Jason, and just, it was really, I didn't see that there was much competition at all. I remember when I recorded In for Blue, my second Shrapnel record, Jason stopped by the studio, which was common for all Mike's guys to pop in and see who's recording, and whether it was Jason or I think Brad Gillis would pop in on one of my sessions, and I asked Jason, hey, do you want to play? And he had just finished doing the David Lee Roth record. We played pinball together, talked, and I got back to recording.
Okay, you mentioned two things here. First, Project Driver, which of course was Mars, McAlpine, Aldridge, Rock, and Sarzo. Tommy Aldridge, Rob Rock, and Rudy Sarzo, and of course Tony McAlpine. I really liked that album, man. It wasn't greatly produced in sound, but it was pretty killer, man.
That's right. Yeah, it was a good album.
And then the David Lee Roth album, Little Ain't Enough with Jason Becker. I was like, oh, man, I was looking forward to seeing him go on tour. And then, of course, that just didn't happen. That's
right. The story is out there. Everybody knows the how it happened, the chronological order. But it was a shame. It was just a good break for Jason, and then he's diagnosed with ALS, and about 2 years ago, it was official that Jason had lived longer with ALS than he'd lived without it, and he's just what an inspiration, a hero, super big inspiration of all of ours, and for both reasons, his playing and for his ability to his humanity, ability to just be just a fighter and a great presence, and so. Gosh, I just so positive minded, and just really love him. Really love that guy. It's a pretty damn amazing story for sure. Yep. And, fortunately, we did get a lot of music out of him before this happened, but yet he still continues to create, which is great. That's right. Yeah, that is really, you can't, I got to tell you, every time I think about, I can't do this because I don't have that. I got to stop myself and think about guys like Jason and so many other people who have debilitating illnesses that still just fight through it and accomplish great things. And Jason is certainly one of those people. Yeah, none of the poor me, Yeah, none of that. Can't have it. So, all right, so let's continue on through your career. Did you like being labeled like a virtuoso or a prodigy or anything like that, or a shredder? I mean, how did you say, hey, I'm a guitarist? That's it, man. I'm a musician. I'm one of the people who suffer from that syndrome that I'm never any good. And so as a result, there are a lot of us who spend hours, days upon months upon years sitting in a bedroom, never even going out to play because we're just ashamed of ourselves. Oh my God. Well, Joey, I'm gonna tell you a little secret, okay? Just between you and me, all right? You're really freaking good. Well, I work at it. People ask me, they say, "Oh, you're a natural." I say, "Hey, look," and thank you, Mike, thank you. I say, "Look, I'm not a natural. I know what naturals. I can look at a person and I can say, man, that guy is a natural." And I've seen a few of them where it's just wow. I'm just a guy who worked twice as hard as everybody else and spent long hours practicing to give the appearance that I'm a good player. What's funny is lately, especially, every time I've talked to you on the phone, I can hear you diddling around on the guitar in the background. Well, Mike, I stopped playing guitar for 15 years without ever playing a note, not even stopping to pick up a guitar for 5 minutes in 15 years. And because I started a business that became very successful, and I'm very proud of that business. And then Mark Bridie from Jag Panzer got in touch with me and asked me if I wanted to go out and do some touring. And we hadn't spoken in years. I said, gosh, that would be so much fun just to reunite with the guys on a friendship level and get back to the grassroots of where I came from. And I started playing again, and I was surprised how fast that stuff comes back. The bulk of it. There's still some stuff that I probably will never be able to do again. And some stuff I'm doing better than I could ever do. But I'm surprised how fast it comes back. And I'll tell this for if anybody listening, I used to think that guitar playing was primarily largely physical, 90% physical, and very little mental. And I've changed my philosophy on that it's almost all mental and less physical. And for this reason, anybody can get in reasonable physical fitness within 90 to 120 days, 3-4 months, and you get some shape back in. I never stopped playing guitar in my mind. For 15 years, I would always listen to music and kind of envision how it would be played and hear things in my mind. I never picked up a guitar, but when I finally picked it up again, I had all these things that were in my mind building up that came out like someone just opened the floodgates.
Now that's interesting you say that, because, all right, first of all, I did not know. This is the first time, and I've known you for, years now? Well, not years, but, probably a good 5 years or so. I didn't know you took that long of a break. And then number two, yeah, there's definitely muscle memory, but that's really interesting to talk about the mind, because the mind is, that's such an interesting thing to explore, what the mind is capable of doing, And the fact that you're sitting there saying that when you would hear music, you would kind of map it out in your head or whatever. I'll bet you that really did kind of translate into you physically playing when you picked up the guitar again.
Oh, 100%. It changed my philosophy on everything. That guitar playing is largely mental and very little physical. One of my favorite people in my life, who's gone now, Sean Lane, who became a very good friend of mine, was a dear friend. I learned from him that playing was largely in a mental capacity, as he took, I believe, he stopped playing guitar for 10 years at one time, but switched to piano, so his hands were still moving. But when I used to hang around him, he was big on mental practice. And when I got back with Jag Panzer, I remember we had a show in Milwaukee, and I didn't start rehearsing the songs until a few days before we were supposed to leave. And I got on the plane and went through every song painstakingly as I was playing it in my mind for a few hours. When I got to the hotel room after taking a cab, the guys were in the hotel room already set up and had been into the third song. And I jumped just right into the room, pulled up my guitar and plugged in. And it was like I had rehearsed that whole day. They thought I was sandbagging. Rickard, the drummer, accused me of, he goes, you didn't, because I told, hey, I didn't even practice yet. So, and he thought I was sandbagging, but I did a mental practice, a real hard mental practice. It wasn't like I was daydreaming. I was actually working.
That's funny. You mentioned Rickard. That's funny you mentioned Rickard. I don't know him that well, but I do know him, and he's like one of those kind of guys that he's not going to mince words,
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I agree with that. Now that philosophy, mental state of mind is really where it's at. It really is.
So how would you tell players out there that might be listening, just what can they do?
As it pertains to mental practice, create in your mind, you envision, you've heard this by many people, it works, but you have to actually work. It's still work. Envision the fretboard, envision your hands playing each note. And at first I actually had to go slow. I couldn't, even though I was envisioning myself, I couldn't play a fast run. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I had to envision 1, 2, third fret, fourth, and then I built up my speed in my mental practice as well. So just envision yourself being everything you want to be is the main key.
So it's essentially visualization, which I use in my life, probably not enough, but specifically for this would be guitar. So that's pretty interesting.
Yep. Visualization is huge. It's a primary factor for everything I've ever accomplished. And in mental practice, you can still do it, but it's not, you actually look at the fretboard and say, okay, here's my first finger. Here's the minor scale. Just go through it one by one until you can build up speed in your mind. Yeah, it sounds a little funny, but it works.
All right, so I'm going to let you kind of take control of this interview. I want you to tell me, or I want you to talk about what you want to talk about.
Wow.
So, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be guitar, but any cool stories from your career. I mean, you've done a lot of stuff, and you know, recently you were like with Alcatraz, which is, you know, a lot of history right there with Graham Bonnet. You know, the guy saying, geez, of course, with Rainbow, Michael Schenker, you know, doing the Graham Bonnet band, the Alcatraz stuff, and of course playing with. Now, okay, let's start right there. How about this? Okay, I'll lead you into this part of the interview. You going into the Graham Bonnet band and learning the Yngwie stuff and the Steve Vai stuff, and then even doing your own stuff. How cool is that? I mean, I would like to think that's pretty badass because you're getting the best of a lot of worlds right there.
You know, it's a great feeling. But let me correct you on something. I never played in Alcatraz. It was the Graham Bonnet band. And to me, Alcatraz will and always only be if you get the original members all back together. It's one of those projects or bands, short-lived as it was, one of those bands that without all the original members, it's really not the band, in my opinion. But I did enjoy my time with Graham Bonnet, and playing all that stuff is just great. I mean, Steve Vai, starting with Blackmore, one of my favorite guitar players growing up. Michael Schenker, another favorite. Still listen to him to this day. Hold him in high regard. Yngwie, of course. Steve Vai. All those guys. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's one of the best guitar gigs you could hope for, right?
Well, for me personally, yeah, growing up, I mean, I found something a long time ago, like this Hit Parade or something, one of those guitar magazines. It had a poll in there that I never sent in, but I'd filled out. It was like, list your favorite guitarists, and one of them was Ritchie Blackmore. So yeah. Ritchie Blackmore, always dug. Yngwie, you know, his first album, the Rising Force album, I'm sorry, was just incredible. So Michael Schenker's always been a favorite. Blackmore was a favorite. Yngwie, and then of course Steve Vai. And I gotta tell you, dude, I would favor Disturbing the Peace over the Yngwie stuff.
Oh, interesting. I'm more of the I like the first album the best myself.
Yeah. So
but hey, they're all. I mean, they're all good.
Oh, it's still great, yeah. And if I misspoke saying that you were actually in Alcatraz, the Graham Bonnet band, the fact that you put out an album with him, so again, working your own material into stuff in addition to playing these great guitar players parts. I mean, again, that's got to be so cool because I mean, you've obviously got your own style, and that record is actually pretty badass, dude.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time with that one. When you can play with Graham specifically, I love Graham and his voice. I've always admired his voice. And when you can play with him, that's one thing. When you can record a record and be part of the Graham Bonnet history of guitar players who've actually recorded with him, then that meant entirely took me up another level of accomplishment for myself. I thought, I loved it. It was great.
Okay, now that I got that out of the way, what does Joey Tafolla want to talk about? It's all you, brother. It's all you.
We could talk about just about anything. We could talk about the records, CDs, chronological timelines, band members, current projects, past projects. Help me out here, brother.
All right, what do you got going on right now?
Let's see. Right now, I just finished our CD with a band called Of Gods and Monsters. That's Kevin Gutscher from the singer from the band Omen. Tim Gaines from Striper on bass. Dean Castronovo of Journey fame and Ozzy fame on drums. And I'm on guitar. Just finished that up. It's in mix now. That's going to be a later this year, I think, a fall release. Just did a I did a CD for a guy in Italy called Paco Ventura, and I think I played a solo on that record with Stu Ham, and I think it has Rudy Sarzo, Michelangelo, Jennifer Batten, a lot of great players on it. And then I just did a CD for a project called Wolfpack in Germany, a producer, Michael Voss. That one has Anders Johansson on drums, from Uningray, and on that album is Jeff Watson, I think Doug Aldrich, Vinnie Moore, Paul Shortino, Rudy Saro, so just the gamut of all the guys. And recording some new material right now for another project that I can't quite say what it's for yet. But doing a lot of recording is what I'm doing now.
Well, okay, you just mentioned of Gods and Monsters, which, yes, I'm looking forward to that because Dean Castronova, one of my favorite drummers, and I'll take you as far back as Wild Dogs. Kind of Omen since way back when they first started, back with the first singer and then Coburn Farr. Kevin Gucci, you mentioned him. So Omen, yeah, that takes me way back to the day of like Fate's Warning, Omen, all those Metal Blade records and stuff. And then a good buddy of mine now, Tim Gaines, who lives here in Arizona. And yeah. I've gotten to know him a little bit in the time I first met him. Oh, what is it? A year and a half, 2 years ago. I met him at a show and we became friends. I actually jammed with him. We had a couple local players on guitar, myself for the Clam Fest on guitar, Tim Gaines on bass, and then we had Ken Mary on drums come up, another one of my favorite drummers who lives here and currently just did a show in Germany for Fifth Angel, and also will be going out on the road starting in March with Flotsam and Jetsam. So anyway, dude, that record I'm really looking forward to because I know Tim spoke a lot of good things about it.
Oh, yeah, I thought Kevin, I got to tell you, sang his ass off on that record. I heard one song the other day, a song called Fighting Fire with Fire. He sounds great on that. At the last minute, I got a chance to do a unaccompanied guitar solo on that. So that one, looking forward to hearing that. It's the first time I've been able to put an unaccompanied, actually the second time. I did one on the In for Blue record. But I'm looking forward to that record, that CD coming out for sure.
Okay, so when is that coming out?
It looks like not till a fall release.
Ooh, come on now.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with that, but yeah, fall release.
All right, what else you got going on?
That's about it. I've got looking forward to going out and possibly doing some shows with Jag Panzer in the summers at some point, and doing a little bit of touring, but mainly getting back in the studio and starting writing.
And are you going to do like another solo release, or what are you going to be doing?
I'm writing right now, so I don't know where those songs will go to. I just like writing. I love that process. So whether those songs go on another record or into a solo record, right now it's just writing and recording ideas.
All right, let me ask you this: who would you like to work with, like as a vocalist? And you're obviously all right. You got the guitar part covered. Who would you like to work with?
Oh, you're gonna kill me. I on that one. I mean, it's like there's a long list. And most of the guys are actually older guys who you would expect. You like, how could you not ever say we're going with all my heroes, Dickinson, right? But I tell you what, one of the things that I would love to do, and this sounds really odd for probably a player of my character or style, but I just think it would be really fun to be in a band where I'm not pulling extensive guitar duty for like anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours straight all night, where you get there and it's like as soon as you land, you hit the dressing room and have to warm up for an hour and concentrate on every note. It would be really great to be in a band where the guitar duties are a little bit lighter, where you can have a little bit more fun on stage.
So you're talking about dual lead guitars?
Yeah.
Or even triple. You mentioned Bruce Dickinson. Look at Iron Maiden. 3 guitars, Joey. 3. Count them. 3.
Yeah, that makes your job same pay rate. You just got to split the duties.
You keep saying duty.
Yeah. split the workload.
Yeah, well, that would be badass. Have you ever been in a situation where you did that? I mean, you've always just been a solo. I mean, you've always been the guy, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. Most of the bands I've been in, I've been the guy carrying the large part of doing the heavy lifting, and it would be nice, and even something like that is a little bit more un-guitar, super guitar related, But you know what? I say that now. Be careful what you wish for, and then next thing you know, you're like,
Yeah.
gee, I wish I was playing solos where I have to wipe the sweat from my brow because it's so tough to you have to concentrate on every note. I'd like to be in a band where I don't have to look at my neck for about 20 seconds at a time.
Well, for a while there, you've already played the stuff of Schenker, Blackmore, Yngwie, Vi. You're also doing an Ozzy tribute.
Yeah, that was really fun for me. I really enjoyed doing that, and that was it's just I've always loved Ozzy. So yeah, if you want to talk, who would I love to work with as a singer? Ozzy.
There you go.
Great.
Well, hopefully he'll be getting better, because I already bought tickets for Megadeth and Ozzy in July for here in Phoenix, man. It's going to be hot as hell, but I will be there, damn it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me too. I hope Ozzy. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine. We're really hoping that he gets healthier soon.
So, did you ever see Randy Rhoads live back in the day? I would imagine you did, but I'm just kind of assuming. I don't like to do that, but
no, I did not.
You never did. Oh.
No, I never did, and that was a shame.
Yeah, you know what? I never did either.
But one of my biggest, I'm a big fan. One of my I wouldn't say a big influence that comes through in my playing a lot, but man, when his music, his style never is one of the most difficult styles to reproduce, and it's hard to bring it into your style. You don't hear very many guys sound like Randy Rhoads.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you don't go to a place and go, man, that guy sounds just like Randy Rhoads. It's just, no matter how much you work at it, here's the thing. I said this once before. You can spend a lifetime trying to be Randy Rhoads, but he'll always have the edge on you because he was Randy Rhoads. Right. Yeah, it's but man, I love Randy's playing and style, and looking forward to doing something coming up soon. I was called. There's going to be a Randy Rhoads tribute show going on the anniversary of his passing on March 19th, and the people organizing it. It's going to be at the Whiskey A Go Go. The people organizing it called me up and said, "Do you want to play it?" Randy's sister and brother, Kathy and Kelly, who I know, asked if I would see if you would play, and so that just was last week. I just felt like, wow, I said, of course, no matter what I'm doing, everything else is canceled now, so I'm doing that.
Yeah. So you mentioned influence, not a huge influence, but you love his playing and everything. Who is your main influences? I mean, that's kind of a standard question, but still has to be asked.
Well, it's not that Randy wasn't a huge influence, but it's that for some reason, even though I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours learning his stuff, it never made its way into showing. I don't believe on it. However, on the new Gods and Monsters, you may hear a little bit more of that on that style coming through. But early influences, just whatever was on the radio, what people heard. I remember, Ted Nugent, Aerosmith, Jimmy Page. Those are the early ones, and then it moved on to Blackmore right away, Schenker for UFO, and never used it. Eddie was never a big influence of mine, but mostly all the European bands, European metal, Blackmore, Schenker, Priest, all the Euro metal sound was an influence. A funny story. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was younger, I really liked Ted Nugent, and one of my friends said, "Wow, if you like Ted Nugent, you should go get Frank Zappa. You'll love. This guy's out of this world." And at that time, I was making $2.25 an hour. So to save money to buy a record was a lot of money, right? I got paid. I went down to the store and I bought the Frank Zappa record, and I thought, oh my God, this is so horrible. I couldn't. It was, I was only 14. It was like, I was like, this isn't Ted Nugent. And I couldn't. Years later, of course, I got an appreciation for that. But I was older. But the same thing happened to me with the Grateful Dead and Black Sabbath. Someone told me, "Oh, you like Black Sabbath?" When I was 14, they said, "You got to go listen to the Grateful Dead." And I went out of the record store. I saw a picture of the album with skulls and everything. I thought, "Wow!"
Yeah.
I paid the money, and I thought, "What the heck?" I had to give the record back and put it at like half price as far as credit to buy another album that I liked.
Oh my God, dude, that's funny. And to this day, I gotta be honest, man, I'm still not a Grateful Dead fan. I just am not. But that's interesting that the Black Sabbath reference.
So you asked for a funny story. Here's one. I'm in Europe, probably 2000. No, this is going to be 94. I am staying at the Park Hotel near the Frankfurt Music Mesa, where all the people stay there for the show. I'm at the bar at 11 at night, and meet David Hasselhoff.
Oh no, no way, Michael Knight.
I'm talking with the guy who plays guitar for David Hasselhoff, and next to us is John Entwistle, picking up on a girl, and he was so easy. He said, "You know what my most famous pickup line, my best pickup line is?" And she said, "No." He said, "Hi, I'm John Entwistle, the bass player for The Who." And that did it. That did it for him. So he got the girl. David Hasselhoff comes in, and he said, this is Joey. The guy is 7,000 feet tall, and he's huge. And he says, we started talking and drinking, and we partied that night. And I had about a week off from touring, doing clinics. And he said, why don't you come along with us? We're on the road. And I met all the people on the tour, lots of the dancers and people. And I got up the next morning. I said, what the heck? Why not? And I got up on the road. I got up the next morning. It's all of us drunker than hell, and jumped on the bus and went on the road touring with David Hasselhoff, not as a musician, just hanging out on the bus because it was cheaper than the hotel, and traveling around Germany, hanging out backstage, watching the shows. And then after about 4 days, I was like, okay, I got to get back to work. But yeah, that was my Hoff story.
So did you actually hang out with him and
get
get to know him? Did you get to know him on a personal level, or just kind of casually hang out?
Dave, yeah, when he's on the road, it's not, nothing is really personal. He's the star of the show, the attention, and he's a comic. So it's just listening to everything he's saying and laughing at the right times is about the most you're going to get out of that.
Well, as Norm Macdonald would always say, the Germans love David Hasselhoff.
They do. One thing that I wanted to tell you, a lot of people know me for the Out of the Sun CD.
Of course.
Then Infra Blue came next. That had Dean Castronovo on the drums.
And again.
And incredible drum solo on that record that he did. But what a lot of people don't know is there's a third release that wasn't on Shrapnel, was on a record label called Mascot in Europe, called Plastic, and that was my third solo CD. So if for anybody who doesn't know about that one, there's a third release.
You know what? I'm looking it up right now. And I don't think I even have it, Joey Tafolla. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that makes two of us. So that one was a real experimental CD. It has Tal Bergman from Billy Idol on drums. It has Oscar Cartaya from Spyro Gyra and, a number of other great musicians. Al Di Meola, I think he played with.
Good Lord.
On bass. It has a live horn section from some of the guys who played at the time with Brian Setzer.
Oh, wow.
Tom Jones and Brian Setzer and Tom Jones. And so one of the guys had played with Tower of Power, I think. Live horns on almost every song. It's kind of a heavy metal funk experimental record. And then I had Sean Lane's keyboard player, Billy Batt, play some solos on that one. And that's Plastic. That's the name of that one.
Well, now I'm going to have to check this out. And the fact that you mentioned Brian Setzer, dude, I got to tell you, I saw Brian Setzer Orchestra back in, oh my gosh, I can't even remember, right after he came out with that. And that was one of the most electrifying concerts I've ever seen, dude. The energy in the air just was, you could feel it. It made my hair stand up. They were just rocking. They were so on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started doing the Christmas stuff, and I've not been able to, did I go to, I don't think I have. I would love to see the Brian Setzer Orchestra Christmas, but that was just an amazing show, dude. And that was a long time ago, but I remember it.
He puts on a great show. I saw him once in Nashville, and he was really just amazing show.
And you know what's funny, dude? You know, I grew up because I'm 50, and so we're probably right around the same age, right?
Yep, I think I got you beat.
Okay.
For a couple of years.
So anyway, I was always